with this approach, you always will get the best responses, because what you get as a result are a bunch of questions, and you answer those questions. And when you don't have an answer to a question, you tell it to dive deeper. So you get, let's say, 20 questions, and you can answer 17 of those, but the other 3 you're struggling. So 2, you say, I don't care about those 2, but one of them you say, please, let's dive deeper into that as well. So then it gives you another few questions and helps you to answer the first question. And I did that, and then it felt like, I'm not kidding, it felt like I was talking to someone who is a business consultant and had an entire day to constantly listen to me, ask questions, find out more about me, my business, my personality, my values, and so forth, and then gave me advice at the end. And that's how it felt. And I was like, what? How is this possible? It was incredible. It was such a high quality response that was so specific. There were words that I never used, but they described my values so incredibly well.
Before we dive into today's episode, please hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us grow and inspire more people on their journeys. Thank you. Hello, Denis. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Thomas. Thank you for having me.
So, Denis, for those who don't know you, can you please introduce yourself?
Well, yeah, I'm Denis Panjuta. I come from Germany. I live in Cologne. I have 2 kids and a wife, and also a small poodle, a dog. And I am influencer, you could say, on LinkedIn. At the same time, an educator. So I've been teaching people how to code for the last 12 years now. And I moved over to teaching people about AI roughly a year ago. And that has been my focus of my content on LinkedIn, as well as on YouTube, where I moved from coding to AI as well.
So is it area that you plan to continue growing in and focusing on, AI?
Yes. So as I come from a technical side, I have been doing AI stuff for a while. So I used AI myself for even before ChatGPT came out. And I used GPT-3, which was a significantly worse version of ChatGPT back in the day, but still was already interesting enough to use. Yeah, that's when I step by step realized, okay, coding is going to have a tough time, or coders in general are going to have a tough time, and we can see that now. And it feels like it's going to get harder in the future. And yeah, it's just the beginning of AI changing everything. So that's why I want to focus on AI in the future as well. Obviously, there are new areas that are popping up in the AI sphere. So not just like the new tools that are coming out all the time, but some really drastic changes. So AI automation was something pretty cool that I jumped into and also learned and also started teaching and built some really amazing automations that I absolutely love. But at the same time, I think this year will be the year of the agents. And who knows, maybe the agents will be the last tool that we will need to manage ourselves before we don't need to manage anything ourselves anymore. So who knows where the future will bring us.
I've been seeing agents a lot on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
whether it's in the posts or people send in DMs if you want to try or explore. So I guess that's a good point.
Well, the thing is, you have to consider that the world is made for humans, right? So, well, because we build it, at least our world, the size of everything, like the doors is made for humans because we have a certain size, and that's why they are 2 meters and something, right? And so forth. And the same goes for software on your computer. So if you go to a website, it's made for a human. It's very often very inefficient because we have to move the mouse, we have to click, we have to enter stuff into our keyboard, and the output is very slow and so forth. However, everything is built around that. Like the whole internet is basically built around that. There is a sub level, which is APIs. So basically servers talking to each other directly. That's also something that is available, and that's where AI automation comes into play. So AI automation is basically where 2 different tools are talking to each other to automate processes accordingly, or not 2, maybe it's 10 different tools or whatever. But once one thing happens, another thing starts to happen as well, that triggers another and so forth. That would be AI automation. But AI automation is not something that everyone can use. AI agents, however, everyone can use, without learning much about it, because in the end, you just know what you want to achieve, and you tell the thing the agent what it needs to do, and then it just does it by clicking buttons the way you would do it, right? So that's why I think agents will be drastically changing the way we work, and we potentially will become agent managers rather than actually doing our job ourselves anymore.
We will become lazier.
Well, we already have been becoming lazier and lazier. I don't know how many phone numbers you still can recall. I can only recall my own phone number and the phone numbers that I know from childhood of my family and my friends, you know?
I was going to say the same, that I remember those from many years ago of my
Yeah.
family.
Yeah, that's it. And everything else, because it's not relevant anymore, you can forget it. And the same will go for many skills. It's like university. You go through university, you learn so much stuff, and then you start working and you learn so many new things. But all the stuff that you learned in university, you realize that most of it you never needed
It's true.
to go through uni. That's it.
Yeah. But I also did an episode with someone recently about automation, and I agree it's just such a helpful tool if you can outsource basically routine, mundane, or boring tasks so that it leaves you energy, time, or even brain bandwidth to focus on those that are more important. So I agree that it will probably become a big topic.
Yeah. I mean, the combination of AI automation and agents will drastically shift everything. I'm certain about it. And then the next level will obviously be getting that into the physical world through robots. So that's
It
what.
will be scary part,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
definitely.
sci-fi.
Yeah. It is a little bit like this iRobot movie, right? Where we have these robots that are really capable, very smart, and now the problem that we have right now still is that those robots are not cheaply created. They aren't tested. The society isn't ready for them yet, and so forth. It's one thing to have them at your job, but it's another thing if you like go through the streets and suddenly you see a robot like doing its thing. So it's do you recall Google Glasses?
I read about it, but I don't remember like when it happened.
Okay. So it was 2013, 14. That's when Google Glasses were first announced. And they were amazing back then. I was like, I want one of those. But the problem was society wasn't ready for them. People who wore those glasses were attacked by people in bars and stuff because people felt like people were filming, like the guy with the glasses was filming them. And that's why it was actually scary to wear some of those glasses because you would actually get punched in the face for it potentially, right? Not everyone, but like depending on where you were. And that's why
And
it
have you
was no
actually
success.
tried them? Did you have them as well?
No, I have VR glasses laying around here and stuff, but it's not the same, right? It's like these lightweight AR glasses, they are really big. I mean, you see the Ray-Ban Meta glasses now. They are
Hmm.
basically a reduced version of what the Google glasses were in terms of their features that they were promising and stuff. But in the end, it's like the readiness of the public for this technology has grown over the last few years. 2013, 14, not even everyone had a smartphone. So,
Yeah, if you think about it, it's been more than 10 years. It's crazy. It's
yeah,
such a long time.
yeah, that's right. And at the same time, obviously, technology has gotten significantly better. And like the features that it can manage to do and so forth now with generative AI enabled is even better. It's like absolutely incredible what you can achieve with it. You can actually talk to it directly and so much more out of it, right?
It's true. And I think it's hard to keep up with everything what is going on. And obviously, if you are in, since you are in this field, and also I follow you on LinkedIn, so I know what you post. How do you manage to keep up and come up with the latest news and stay on top of the things?
The thing is, first of all, I am very interested in these topics, and I think without that it wouldn't work. It once it becomes your job, it becomes like you need to like automate stuff or at least create efficient processes in
Yeah.
order for this to work. So I also have a team. So I have people who help me to work out the content, to create the visuals and stuff like that. But then at the same time, you have to consider that nowadays you have such powerful AI tools that can do research in no time. And the biggest change or challenge that I still see is even if you try really hard with AI, it somehow never feels quite natural yet. And like even if it tries to mimic you and stuff, I just don't feel it yet. even though obviously there are very smart models, right? But still, like whenever we try to build a really powerful marketing message, whenever we use AI, it just becomes still a little too generic, so to speak. It's still fine. It still works. It's better than like 95% of copy that people could write. Probably 99% of copy that people could write. But still, if there is somebody who's like an absolute specialist in writing copy, I still believe that that person will get the message across better, like the gist of the story across better. So,
Do you think we'll reach that point when it will be able to replace?
well, the thing is, like, for many people, it has replaced it already. So, like, you always have to consider: are you the absolute best in your field? If that's the case, AI will probably not be better at, well, it depends on obviously what we're talking about. We can see that now it's up to do better research than researchers can do, and at a significantly higher scale and so forth. But when it comes to marketing, for example, if you want to write an amazing message, you need to prompt it perfectly as well, or it needs to have so much awareness, so much context awareness about your audience, about like
Yeah, the more info you
story.
feed it, the better answer you get.
Obviously, yes. Yeah, that for sure. I had this really interesting story, like experience just recently. And I was sitting there really struggling because I was trying to build this school. I have this school for AI automation, right? Because I'm really interested in AI automation. I'm a technical guy. I like to code and so forth, right? But then at the same time, I don't see the future in coding. So where do I see the future? Well, potentially AI automation. So I started jumping into it. I learned a lot about it, built some cool automations. And then I had this problem how I should market this school, like who is the target audience and what's the value that I can deliver and so forth. And I realized that my background is not like how you can build an AI agency, like an AI automation agency, and make 10K a month or whatever. That's not what I am. I am an educator, so I show you how to build an online business, right? So, but that was something that I wasn't like, I really didn't see and really couldn't make myself aware of until I built this custom GPT where I threw in everything about my business. I threw in details about like the persona, so details about who are the people who are joining my school. Like if you join a school, you can add like a one-liner about yourself, right? So I threw those in so that the custom GPT would have more insight as to what my audience is and stuff. I threw in my best working posts that I had on LinkedIn. I threw in my best working emails, the A/B tests, so that it knows which like subject tried against each other and which one won, so that it could write emails for me and stuff like that. And then I had this conversation with it where I was really stressed out because I didn't find the right way to move forward, because it didn't feel right to go with the same direction anymore that I tried to force, but it wasn't my direction. So it was just something that I thought was the right way because I saw other people doing it very well. So I wanted to copy what they did, but it just wasn't the right way because I have to put myself into the mix in the sense of my personality, my interests, my values, and stuff like that. And I only realized that after I had a very good conversation with my custom GPT. So I told it about my conundrum, my problem. I told it, guide me through questions. By the way, that's a really good tip for everyone listening or watching. Guide me through questions, or before you help me, ask questions that will help me. Tell that to ChatGPT whenever you work with it. It's going to come up with questions that you would have never thought of. And by doing so, like it's showing you holes that you had in your thought
Yeah, like a
process.
different angles or perspective. It's something that, to be honest, I haven't really done. So it might be a good idea for me as well to give this a try.
You will be surprised. It's absolutely mind blowing. So I realized that a few months ago, and I recorded a video just last week about the one prompt where I showed how basically with this approach, you always will get the best responses, because what you get as a result are a bunch of questions and you answer those questions. And when you don't have an answer to a question, you tell it to dive deeper. So you get, let's say, 20 questions and you can answer 17 of those, but the other three you're struggling. So two, you say, I don't care about those two, but one of them you say, please, let's dive deeper into that as well. So then it gives you another few questions and helps you to like answer the first question, so to speak, right? And I did that. And then it felt like, I'm not kidding, it felt like I was talking to someone who has had who is a business consultant and had an entire day to constantly listen to me, ask questions, find out more about me, find out more about my business, about my personality, about my values, and so forth. And then gave me advice at the end. And that's how it felt. And I was like, what? How is this possible? It was incredible. There was such a high quality response that was so specific. Really, there were words in there that I never used, but they described my values so incredibly well because it understood, based on the answers that I gave to the questions that it exposed me to, that, yeah, freedom is my core value. So I never told it something like freedom is my core value or whatever, but it says, hey, what you need to do is you need to modify the school to be an AI freedom business kind of thing. So where I show people how to build a business with the help of AI, automations, and agents to become freer, to have freedom is such a powerful word. I mean, there's so much that is like behind it. Freedom, obviously, in the sense of your country is free, there's no war, for example, right? That's one level of freedom. But there are so many different levels of freedom. And there is this really nice German song by a rapper called Curse, and he has made a song called Freedom. And his lyrics, they are touching me even like 15 years after the song came out. So I really love that.
I will check it out. Never heard of it. But it's a great point because I even see it many times on LinkedIn. You know, people saying that it's not, for example, about the tool, but it's about the prompts or the information that you feed to the tool. So I think you just exemplified it perfectly. You know, not to have excuses that the tool is shit or something, or that it's not working. But if you don't feed it sufficient information, it's not going to help you, obviously.
Yeah, and that's why I just think it's really important to understand that as we have it right now, unfortunately, there is a context window of 200,000 tokens in ChatGPT. Okay, that's 150,000 words. That's quite a lot of words. But if you throw in some PDFs with details about whatever, about your business or about HR or about sales, about your products and so forth, you can very easily exceed that limit. Right. Obviously, you could go and say, yeah, I'm going to build a gem in Gemini, which has a context window of 1 million or even 2 million tokens. So there you have more context. So you can throw in 750,000 or 1.5 million words, depending on which tool you're using. That's a lot of words again, right? So I think that's more than the whole Bible and stuff. So obviously you can do that. But at the same time, the thing is like that's a mistake that I realize some people are still making. They believe that the conversation that they have with ChatGPT, that it learns from it, or with any LLM, that it learns from it and it is aware of in the next conversation.
Oh yeah, I thought so. Like when I was starting out as well, and I thought, oh, this would be amazing if I didn't have to feed the information again and it remembered.
Yeah, but it doesn't. So it has this memory feature, so to speak, where it memorizes some core things. Like, let's say you say something about I'm working in marketing and so forth, then it's going to memorize, okay, or it's going to put it into memory, is working in marketing, for example, right? But it's not going to have like an in-depth understanding of who you are and what your values are and so forth, right? And your whole business and so forth. So that's where a custom GPT is really cool, because you can feed in these details once into your knowledge base, like you throw in the knowledge there, right? The files. And then you can start a new conversation with that custom GPT and it will know all of these things every single time. So when I, for example, create a new video now, I just throw in a one-liner, say I created a video about A, B, C, D, and then I say, write an email for me. Then it writes an email in the format that I wrote my last 20 emails. And I can just copy that because it's not going to be, I don't need to modify it too much, right? I can just say, hey, just do it. And it does it. And it's in the format that I need it. I don't need to like pre-prompt it with an insanely complex prompt, like no prompt engineering required here. And I also don't need to do a lot of chain of thought, like multiple process, like
just to do everything again and again and just save time. That's also something that I should focus on more, because sometimes you do these things and it's repetitive. It's either boring and you just don't enjoy it because you do it so regularly.
Yeah.
So those custom ones are amazing. I don't use it as much, but I should. I don't know if I'm lazy, but that's a great point.
You said lazy, right? Sorry that I interrupt you, but if lazy, like if you are lazy, then it's a perfect tool because it's you can stay lazy. You just have to like put the energy in once, but then afterwards you can be a lot more lazy, you know.
That is will make you even lazier. Are you struggling to stay consistent on LinkedIn? Pen Post helps you create high quality posts in minutes, so you can write faster, show up more, and stress way less. Built by creators for creators. It's the easiest way to grow your presence without burning out. Try it free at fanpost.com. No, I was just about to ask you that we've been discussing ChatGPT. Like from my perspective, that's the tool that I use the most. But you as the professional, what other tools do you use? Or is there actually any other tool that you use even more than ChatGPT?
So when it comes to large language models, I have been jumping around between the tools like on a regular basis because let's say GPT-4 was the best for a half a year or so, but then Claude 3.5 came out and Claude Sonnet was amazing. And it still is amazing because Claude Sonnet, in my opinion, is the most realistic AI when it comes to human-like behavior or human-like
Yeah.
conversations, at least in my opinion. I didn't compare it to O3 after or 3 mini or so after that, but I've been using Claude whenever I wanted to have a meaningful exchange, like a meaningful conversation. Because what ChatGPT is trying to do, or try to do, I believe it's a little better now. It always tried to be your buddy and like not push back if you said something stupid. Okay. So if you said something wrong or stupid or were going entirely the wrong direction, it would still try to like help you with your wrong direction, right? But Claude would specifically state it, hey, you're going the wrong direction. How about we look at the other aspect instead? So that's
Mhm.
an example of where I really preferred Claude over ChatGPT for a long time.
Yeah.
Now with O3 Mini and with the custom GPT that I've built, it's really tough to like not use that because it's just such a powerful tool. Like these custom GPTs, if you use them right, they can save you so much time. And other than that, so I also started using Gemini, especially with the deep research feature. So if you want to really dive deep into like any given topic and you want to have a very in-depth understanding of what was written about it and what the situation is. Using the Google Gemini Deep Research, even though it only has the Gemini 1.5 version,
Version.
it's still very smart and very good. It doesn't even have to be super smart. I mean, in the
Mhm.
end, it's just putting information together, analyzing information and putting it together, right? So that's something I've been using. And yeah, I also use it on my phone. So I really like to play video games in Japanese. And
Oh, really?
yeah,
Is it
sometimes
are you learning the language or
yeah,
why
I'm
is that?
learning Japanese since 8 years. It's such a long
Wow.
journey. It's really like it has been an up and down with it. But whenever I play a game and I don't understand the sentence, and I can just swipe up and I can just say explain the sentence to me or break down the sentence, and it just explains it in a lot of depth, and I really like that.
Mhm. And you made me curious. Why are you learning Japanese? I wasn't expecting that.
Oh, that's a good question. I think there's no good reason for it. So I thought it's because a friend of mine moved to Japan, and I really liked anime as well as JRPGs. So I bought a book and started learning Japanese, and I started enjoying it a lot. I thought it was really fun. And then, yeah, it just went from there. I learned the kanji, so the characters, Chinese characters that the Japanese are using. That was a lot of fun. And then I gradually got better, but it actually led to some learning burnouts multiple times along the way, because it is like if you want to do it efficiently, usually need to use something called an SRS, so a spaced repetition system. And what that does is it makes sure that you learn the vocabulary in the right frequency at the right time, so to speak. So there is this concept where you have a memory like you have a time for forgetting something. So let's say you learn a new word. If you repeat that in 10 minutes, then you can repeat it again in a day and it will potentially be still there. If you know the word in a day as well, then you can repeat it in 2 days. And if you know it then it's still, then you can repeat it in 5 days. So the time that is between like remembering the word or like trying to remember the word or the character, whatever, is getting longer and longer over time. And that's something that's basically is how our brain works to a degree. And that's why these spaced repetition systems are so insanely valuable in terms of like being efficient, because otherwise you would have your thousands of words that you need to like look at every single day, and that would be a waste. So you couldn't efficiently go through them. And yeah, once you start using one of those SRS tools, and the one that I'm using is Migaku, shout out to them, amazing tool. So then you are, so to speak, forced to keep going. Because if you stop, then the amount of reviews that you have to do in a day will be so many that it's exhaustive. So yeah,
Overwhelming, yeah.
yeah, it has to become a habit. Otherwise, it's not going to work. I mean, for languages, European languages are so easy to learn. Any of them, except for maybe like Finnish or
Hungarian
Hungarian. Yeah, those
or
two are really
Estonian.
tough. But all the other languages are so easy to learn in comparison to Japanese or Chinese or Arabic. Like these languages
Yeah.
are in another level. Yeah.
So I assume that you would be fluent by now in Japanese. Or is just going to underestimate yourself?
The thing is, I just know 5,000 words. And in order to, and also I'm just consuming. So I don't have any like one-on-one school or anything like that. So I'm just from a consumer's perspective, learning the language, so to speak. And the crazy thing is, I learned 3,000 words just in the last 7 months. So I was very inefficient the time before, jumping back and forth, trying this and that, so many different tools, which is why I'm so grateful for this tool that I was mentioning earlier called Migaku. So they built the system where you can learn any language by, for example, using Netflix, where you see the words that you already know and you see the words that are perfect for you to learn on a frequency list. So let's say it makes sense to learn the first 1,000, like the most common 1,000 words first, right? Because otherwise, there are some words that you would never need in a normal context. So you learn the most frequent ones, and once you got the most frequent words, it still makes most sense to only learn frequent words until you got those down, and then you can start learning less frequent words. But yeah, with this tool, you have like a mix of SRS. You can watch Netflix with dual subtitles and all of that stuff. So I really love using that. And I already, like, the thing is, I was born in Russia. I grew up in Germany. I learned English in school, then French in school. Then I lived in Spain, so I learned Spanish. I had Latin in school. So then I also started with Japanese. So now I'm like, I've spent so much time on Japanese. If I had spent the same amount of hours that I spent on Japanese on, let's say, any of the other languages that I already knew, so to speak, I could be perfectly fluent in all of them, plus maybe 2 or 3 more, because it's just,
That's
it's so
pretty
tough to learn
cool.
Japanese.
If I guess if the career of AI or coding doesn't work out, you can still be, what's the word, polyglot, like the
Yeah,
person who speaks so many languages.
I think there's not much money in it. So, that's always a thing. Like if you, I have a family, right? So I need to bring in the money. So I don't have the full freedom to only go for things that I'm interested in. I always have to like have this side perspective of it needs to be able to do money, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
But still, as we discussed all this stuff, it sounds like you manage to do so many things because the family, business, I don't know, community, learning, social media, and everything. So, I mean, we discussed processes before, but have you got like any secret or advice, or how do you go with time management and all the stuff that you do?
well, time management. So my experience is that if you can, then give away a task that doesn't have to be done by you. So I started hiring people, well, technically in 2016, but it took me until 2019 where I hired somebody full time. And after that, I hired more and more people. Then I went down to a smaller team again because it became too much for me. But in the end, what I did is I took a big flip chart and I wrote down all of the things that I do And all of the things that I would love to do for my business, but I don't do because I don't either have the time or I don't have the skills. But I know that they would be good for my business to grow. So I wrote all of them down and then I marked them with color. Basically, is this something that only I can do? Or is this something that somebody in my team can do? Or potentially somebody that I would still need to hire? So once I did that, I realized that 80% of the tasks that I was doing, I wouldn't need to do anymore because somebody else could do them. So I started to give away those tasks. I started to delegate and hired more and more people that did things that pushed me forward. So I couldn't do all of the things that I do with my business all by myself. And there's always something that you are particularly good at or that you are particularly interested at. And you cannot be interested in everything. And you cannot be good at or great at everything. You can be good at many things, but you cannot be great at all of them. So you need to find the right people to help you, either as partners or as employees, or nowadays you need to find the right agents or build the right automations. So it's still the same thing. So I really think, coming back to what we talked about with AI agents earlier, I just think that many people will have to learn managing skills because they will have to manage agents. So those agents are going to do exactly what you tell them to do. And many people will realize that they're not great at managing because they don't understand like how to communicate a specific task so precisely that it is resulting in what you want to have in the end. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Oh, and it's smart, obviously, because if other people can do that, if they can help you, and sometimes they can do it even better for you, then at least it gives you time to do the things that you are the best at. And of course, on top of this, you want to have time for your family or any life outside. So those were some great tips.
Yeah. So the thing is, I am, as I said earlier, you were lazy, but I am really lazy. Like, I,
Competition who's more lazy.
yeah, exactly. So I really don't like to do repetitive tasks either. I get so unhappy when I need to do repetitive tasks. So I have this little anecdote that showed me, or a little story that showed me that so precisely. So I had in my university, like during my studies, I had to do an internship. So I did an internship for half a year. And during that internship, I had a process that I needed to do for a week where I needed to do some copy pasting in an Excel sheet for a whole week. So literally like 40 hours of copy pasting. And I went crazy. And it was so boring and repetitive. It could have been done with a script, but back then I didn't know how to script properly, and there was no ChatGPT and so forth, and I couldn't learn it very quickly. So I needed to do it manually because it was time critical or whatever. So that showed me that I never want to do repetitive work. Like, sometimes it's fine to do a little bit of repetitive work here and there, but it's a different story if it's something that is really boring as hell and can be done by somebody else. Because some people love boring work, because some people just want to have something simple that they know how to do, and they can excel at just doing exactly what is said. So for them, it's perfect. And I'm glad that it is this way, because this way everyone can find whatever is correct for them or whatever works for them. And I just know that this doesn't work for me and other people love it. So I don't think we can expect from everyone to be the AI agent manager in the future. We will still have people doing other stuff as well. So yeah, definitely interesting times ahead of us.
I agree, because there are like some people who like to do, let's say, routine work where you don't really need to think about it. You just do the work and kind of switch off. And because you do it regularly, you know what it's like. You don't really need to think about it. So I agree that it's good that there are different people and not everyone is the same, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really important to find out what the things are that are important for you and that work for you. And again, maybe you want to use a custom GPT for that. I'm not kidding. Like,
Yeah.
actually, like, fill it up with as much information about you, ask it questions. So for this custom GPT that I built for my business, one of the most important things that I did is I said, create a questionnaire of a bunch of questions. I didn't specify how many questions it needed to be, but I think it was 47 questions. So quite a lot of questions, right? And you need to really put a lot of thought into it. So I said, give me this questionnaire that will help you, well, that will allow me to have a custom GPT know as much as possible about my business to give me useful and valuable information or help and insights. So yeah, that's what I started with, 47 questions, and then obviously all the other files that I threw in. But that was so crucial for the overall understanding of the custom GPT, of my business, and of my, like, yeah, because in the end, a business is to a big degree a reflection of the CEO. And yeah, it's true here as well.
And this, we've been talking about the business. Is it tutorials, your business that we're talking about?
Yes, you could say that. So it has been video courses since 2000. Well, business-wise, I made my first euros with it outside of YouTube in 2014.
Oh, it's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, and I went full-time in 2016, January or February. And the first video course that I made, that's also a really cool story, was for my bachelor's thesis. So I went to Hong Kong in 2011 for a semester abroad, right? And when I was abroad, I had a lot of time. So really enjoying time. Hong Kong was amazing back then. I believe it's a little different now. Still amazing, probably, but different. Not as free as it used to be. So it was really like there was Hong Kong and then there was China, and now it's really mixed. So even though China is doing very well as well to a certain degree. So I had this amazing time and I had a lot of time. And I was so interested in coding that I like, but university just couldn't teach it to me. It just wasn't the right approach for me. So I saw this guy, Bucky Roberts, by the New Boston. So he created tutorials on coding. So he made a tutorial on Java, on Android app development, and so forth and so forth. So I watched his stuff and I absolutely loved it. I was like, holy smokes, this is so good. And I actually learned coding in such a short period of time in comparison to my uni. And I thought, yeah, I'm spending so much time in uni and I don't make progress because it's all theoretical and it's like doesn't show me how the actual practical skill of coding works. So I just thought I want to do the same thing. I want to create courses. So after that, I needed to stop my bachelor's thesis. And my thesis was about 4G, so LTE, right? Signal stuff for your phone, right? Or for the internet. And it was so boring. I was like, oh, I can't. I just couldn't start it. I was 2 months into my thesis, so to speak, and I didn't do more than like half an hour of research or so because I was so not interested in the topic. But I was interested in like coding and building an application. Like in that, like back then, it was an app that was for Android and it was a game. And if I look at it now, it was so poorly built and so poorly developed. And everything it was like I was actually doing logic on the UI thread, and it was absolutely awful. But it worked and it was a lot of fun. So after a while, I went to my professor. I told him I'm really not that interested in the topic, but I would be interested in this other topic. Can I do it with the other professor? So the other professor was like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Because I said I would love to create tutorials on coding and teach people how to build an Android app based on that or like with it. So he said, yeah, cool. I'm very interested. Let's do it. And then I moved the topic. So I built this entire course on how to build this application from scratch. And then I thought, okay, so now I taught people how to build an Android app, but there's no Java tutorial out there. So I also made an entire Java tutorial series where I taught people how to code with Java, because Java was the programming language that you needed to build Android applications back then. Nowadays, there's Kotlin as well, and like so many other solutions that you can use. But back in the day, that was it. So I made those in German because the German market was undersaturated or like under.
Not enough.
Yeah, there was not enough content there. And yeah, I really enjoyed doing that. So I created a bunch of tutorials. I started the YouTube channel. One of the videos got like 350,000 views. And
wow, that's a lot.
yeah, but it was all in German and stuff. I mean, it was 2012 that I did that. And yeah, later on, I did the same thing in English with other topics as well. And there, I think our best video is like 600,000 views or so.
But it's quite a, I would say, like a big step to film yourself and put it online or YouTube. So what was your experience like? Were you excited or were you scared about the reception, what it's going to look like?
I didn't think about that back then. So I wasn't showing myself. I I didn't have a proper webcam or anything, and I don't think it was necessary back then. Even now, it's not necessary. I mean, in the end, if you create great content that is highly educational and on point, you don't need to show your face. It can be all faceless. But
Yeah.
back in the day, was that even more? So I just created the videos and I enjoyed doing it, and the reception was very positive. So I never worried about the negative reception. I mean, in the end, I'm giving away wisdom, not wisdom, but knowledge, right? So, in my opinion, that's the most like peaceful thing that you can do to a degree, right? You give people not like peaceful is maybe the wrong word, but you're not harming anyone, right? You're giving away knowledge and you're teaching people something meaningful and valuable. And I really love that. I still love it. The concept of knowledge is the only thing you can give away and keep. So you can multiply it while you also keep it. You're not losing the knowledge because you're teaching it to someone, right? But if I give you this pen, you have the pen. I don't have the pen anymore, right? But with knowledge,
Yeah.
it's like it's so cool. You can multiply it, and with tools like YouTube and school and like my platform where you can buy my courses. I mean, like I can give people knowledge for like a very affordable price that can drastically change their lives. And that's what I did with my courses on Udemy, right? I reached 500,000 students there on
I
Udemy.
was about to mention it. I was about to ask you if you know the number because I've got it open. The number of total students,
Yeah.
it's impressive.
Yeah, it's more than 500,000 now, so that's pretty cool. And the crazy thing that so I had this vision or mission of teaching 10 million people how to code, but unfortunately the demand for coding has gone down a little
Oh
bit.
yeah, that's true.
So I stopped believing in this mission.
So now you can change it to teaching people about AI and still 10 million or not?
Well, 10 million is such a big number, man. So yeah, I got to 5%. So so that's well, but
No, it's still a huge number and more than 100,000 reviews, which is great as well.
yeah, so that means that people actually started learning and actually started the courses, right? So the cool thing is that how I thought about it is if I can teach thousands of people how to code, there will be some people whose lives I have drastically improved. And you also live in Europe, right? So both of us we live in Europe, and the difference between you being, I don't know, like a cleaner, for example, and being a developer is maybe like 3x the income, 2x or 3x, maybe even less. I mean, in Germany, it's like it's less than 2x, I think. So if
Oh, really?
yeah, maybe
Oh my
maybe
God.
a little more than 2x, but it's not drastically more in terms of how
Yeah.
much you take home in the end, right? Because of taxes and all of that stuff. So in other countries, however, like for example in Nigeria or in India or whatever, you name it, right? There the difference can be 10, 15, 20x. So somebody who has a low paying job versus a developer is like a drastic difference. And this is something where such a simple thing like my course can change the situation of the entire family, and not just the current family, but like for generations potentially. Because with this one course that somebody took, they start a snowball, right?
Mhm.
And what's really important is in order for this to happen, the course actually needs to be good, because what otherwise happens is people have an interest, they start, they lose the interest because it doesn't work as shown in the video, or it doesn't like work for them because it's too complicated or like explained not well enough or not broken down enough and so forth. So you have a high responsibility because you have these people who are highly engaged and highly motivated and interested, and then they start and then they don't get the experience that they were hoping, and they lose like optimism, their motivation, their interest, and so forth. So you have a high responsibility there as an educator. So yeah,
It's like, for example, when I was trying to learn something, for example, language on YouTube as well, because I think that YouTube is just amazing resource.
absolutely.
Of course, you can go down the rabbit hole for some entertainment or whatever, but also there are lots of great tutorials. And I think if you find someone who teaches in an engaging way, so that you come back next time, you are learning, and at the same time you like the teacher, it makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
So as you said, if you know how to present it, how to teach people so that they come back, It's like a big responsibility, but at the same time, something that if you achieve, it must be incredibly fulfilling.
Yes. And at the same time, I got a little too disconnected from it. So at the beginning, it was a lot more like that. But then in the end, it's really, really sad to a degree because I now have 100,000 reviews, right? On Udemy, as you just said. So that means there were 100,000 people that actually started listening to me and watched my stuff. And then they said, hey, this is cool. Or maybe they didn't like it or whatever. And the overall rating is pretty good, like 4.6 stars, I think, or something like that. So that's a good sign. But at the same time, because it's all online, you don't have the same level of connection to your audience. So I just last week gave an online workshop for my office. Like I'm working in a shared office here. So there is a company in here that I gave the workshop to. And it was really like awkward because it was an online workshop with people where half of the team was sitting like 20 meters or 10 meters away from me or so, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And but at the same time, I know these people. So like if I walk past them, they can say, hey, what Dennis, this thing that you showed me about like custom GPTs, it's drastically
Yeah.
improving my workflow. I'm so happy that I have that. Like I had this task that took so many hours every week and now I can do it in minutes and stuff.
Yeah.
There were actually use cases where somebody like a 3-day task we could break down to 10 minutes. And it was so incredible. Like this is so mind blowing. And then this other situation. So one of their team was in a workshop earlier by me, and she learned from my workshop so much and got so interested in the topic that she became the AI expert in her team. So now, like whenever people have anything that has to do with AI, they come to her. And the crazy thing is, she came in as a student, so she was just working there as a student part time, and got to such a high status and high role in her team, even though she's the youngest member. There are people who have 25, 30 years of experience, right? But they come to her for advice. So that's pretty cool. And that's really opening up so many opportunities for everyone, right? You can become the AI expert by, for example, buying my course.
But imagine someone becomes interested in this topic, or it, for example, can change the whole career thanks to one person such as you, because you did workshop in such an exciting way, shared information, made it engaging, so that that person got interested in it and can change like the whole career trajectory. It must feel pretty cool.
Well, I never think about it, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It is pretty cool. But the thing is, like, what you're saying is so valuable because, or like so true, because there are studies that have shown that if you like your teacher, the amount that you're going to learn from him is drastically improved because you see the thing that they are saying is more valuable, and that's why you store it better in your brain. And that's why I think YouTube is so important for the collective knowledge that we have in our world. I think without YouTube it wouldn't have been possible. Just think back, even like 20 years ago, right? There was no YouTube in 2005. It just started, maybe there were some other pages out there or whatever, but if you wanted to learn something, obviously you could go to forums, you could go to websites and so forth, but otherwise you would have to get a book, you would have to read a book. And not everyone loves reading. Reading is a lot more exhaustive than watching a video. And also, the way we are as humans is that communication through conversation is the most natural thing to us, right? So stories and communication through stories is what really matters to us as humans. So a book obviously can convey a story, can convey information, but it's not the most natural way to get knowledge. But if you watch a video where somebody is basically talking to you, it's a different level of like how you learn. And obviously in a book it can have a lot more condensed information, can be more on point and so forth, because somebody who writes a book thinks for months on how to like optimally talk about a given topic. But at the same time, for many people it's too dense then, right?
I agree, and I think also with video on YouTube, you can see literally the video, what it looks like, how the person is doing that tutorial and stuff like that, which makes it, I feel like it gives it like a new layer of learning, like on top of listening to you and like having experience of kind of communication, although it's through the video. It also lets you to see the person, for example, doing some stuff. So I think that makes it just more efficient as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the end, if you know where to click, it's so much easier, right? And if you just read in a book and there are screenshots and the screenshots have been taken in an old version and it's really tough to get it right. Which kind of brings me back to another AI tool that I didn't talk about earlier, but I think is also absolutely mind blowing, is AI Studio by Google. So there you can share either your camera or you can share your screen, and you can verbally talk to the AI and say, hey, I am trying to do ABC. Can you please help me? So for example, I'm not an Excel pro, right? So I don't know how to use Excel efficiently. So I just threw in an Excel file and I used this tool and I said, hey, help me visualize data. So then it's told me what I need to click. It said, oh yeah, there is this button at the top left side. Click on that. It's called so-and-so. There's an icon that looks like ABC, whatever. And then you click on it and it just leads you through the process. And I just think this is so amazing. It's so mind-blowing what this tool can do.
Not going to lie, I either wasn't aware of it or I haven't tried it. So it made me curious. We'll give it a try.
Yeah, it's really good. And it's free as well because it's still like a developer tool, so to speak. So I can highly recommend checking it out. It will potentially be available publicly very soon as well. It's basically what OpenAI has presented in May last year, where they were showing their really cool like cam feature where you can show what you're looking at and then it would explain what's going on in the thing. They still haven't released it yet, right? But Google has at least given us access through like this developer's environment. The thing is, it's just unfortunately until now too resource intensive to do it because it needs to real time stream while at the same time analyzing whatever is happening with a lot of images that needs to be like analyzed and so forth. So computational wise, it's really
I think
heavy.
If I tried, my laptop would probably explode.
Well, your laptop couldn't do it, so it all happens in the cloud, right? So,
Okay.
like your laptop wouldn't be able to do it. I think the cool thing is that we have multiple levels of increments and improvements. So the models that can analyze the information and so forth, they become smaller, which makes the resources required in order to achieve the do the task less, and at the same time, the hardware is getting better. So we have like two forces both pushing the price down, or like the computational like energy that is required down, so that it will potentially be available in our glasses, maybe even locally, so that you don't even have to talk to a cloud server or whatever. If you're like you care about privacy a lot, then the glasses would potentially only be for you personally or whatever.
Yeah, another sci-fi innovation soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it's just to be aware of time. I feel like that it flew so quickly and we could be speaking for much longer.
Yeah.
But before finishing, can you summarize where people can find you, follow you, and promote any of your services?
Thank you very much for that opportunity. Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. The name is Denis with one N, Panjuta, Panjuta. And yeah, on LinkedIn, I post a lot of content. You can also find me on YouTube, but I'm really thinking about rebranding my YouTube, so I'm not going to say my name there. But through LinkedIn, you will find all of these details. And otherwise, my website is called aidennis.com, again with one N. So yeah.
And you do not promote TutorialsEU or?
TutorialsEU, that's my coding brand. So I have moved away from it. As I said, I'm focusing on the AI side of things. I've been doing this TutorialsEU thing for 5-6 years. And yeah, I just see like didn't want to mix it, because AI is also relevant for the average Joe and not just the techie, not just the highly technical person like coders are, right? So it's different types of mentalities that people have when it comes to that. So yeah, regarding products, well, I am offering video courses on AI and AI automation. So if you want to become the AI expert in your team, definitely check out my website, aidennis.com. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to teaching as many people as possible. I love teaching, and I just think it's such an amazing opportunity. I'm so glad that I can do it, because it's, like if you are, let's say you have a business in mining, in cobalt mining or whatever, right? So on one hand, you are making the resource available so that humans can do cool stuff with it, but at the same time, usually people who work in mines have poor lives, so you are reducing life quality of people, and at the same time you're potentially like destroying the environment and so forth, right? But as an educator, you don't have that problem.
That is true.
Yeah.
And the last question, before we finish, is there something that you would like to share, such as any question that I should have asked you and did not, or any final piece of wisdom to finish with?
I think the conversation was pretty good. I enjoyed it a lot, and thank you very much for the invite. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the perception of people. I'm also excited to talk to people who watched it. So don't hesitate to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Thank you. I really appreciate it as well. I feel like it flew so quickly, so maybe we can do the sequel in the future again.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much for joining me. I encourage people to follow you on LinkedIn, or even to sign up for any of your tutorials or classes and stuff like that. And wish you all the best. And maybe one last question or request to finish with. If you can say like a goodbye and some stuff in Japanese, so that we can finish with your Japanese experience, it will be pretty cool. And thank you, Denis.
So, mata ne, which means basically see you soon.
Thanks for listening to Produced by with Toman. Check the show notes for all the links, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your feedback. Speak soon.